Urban prone, a little bit different because typically in most cases the shooter chooses to get into this position. Applications where you might find yourself using an urban prone position. Typically it's shooting under things. That could be a table, that could be in a parking garage, shooting underneath and or around a vehicle. You may modify or have to modify your position just a little bit to get, say, your feet behind the wheel so that you have good cover and concealment in the event that you catch a ricochet off the ground. So urban prone is one of those positions that, depending upon what's going on, what's around you, you can get your body behind something. Maybe you're at a Kmart and you're shopping for a nice diamond ring for your soon-to-be wife, and you're kind of going all out right here, and you're behind that diamond counter and something bad happens and you immediately have to take cover and keep the majority of your body behind it. Maybe you're working an L-shaped hallway and you're standing, you're doing an engagement, you're kneeling doing an engagement, and straight prone doesn't really work out too well. You decide, I'm gonna lean on my side, get my body behind something and fire from there. The bottom line is come up with your own scenario of how you're going to apply this, but the technique is more of a position that you'll find yourself getting into to gain some type of advantage of what it is that you're trying to do, which is obviously get good effective rounds on the suspect. If you're working in and around vehicles and the guy's at the hood or the guy's at the back of the vehicle and you're trying to put good effective fire in those locations and you're just missing them, either it's a timing issue and or your rounds are just skipping off those locations and going over his head. If you see that his lower region is exposed, you have options in urban prone. Couple options. If I see pelvic girdle, I take pelvic girdle. If I see center mass, I'm going to take center mass. Typically, if we're shooting underneath something, chances are we're seeing legs in the foot region. So one thing to consider is that the leg is generally pretty small, but the average foot is about a size 10. And if it is ever facing you, typically the foot is the same width as the leg or the ankle area. The other thing is, if we end up holding for the leg or the ankle, meaning the lower portion of the leg, what could happen is if we pull a shot or if we slightly miss, then that round is either going left or right. It's not going where we want it to go, and we're not going to even get a little bit of a break on it, right? However, if we aim at the foot, especially if it's facing us and or broadside even better, it gives me that full diameter of the foot, which is going to maximize me potentially getting around in this guy. I can also, if I'm aiming at the foot, in the event I'm a little shallow on my shot, I might end up catching a skip into him. So if I'm a little shallow on it, the round still may go into his foot. Now, what am I looking for? I'm hoping I catch him off guard, and if I catch him off guard, maybe I can collapse him. If I collapse the body, I'm running pelvic girdle, chest, face, whatever I need to do to eliminate that threat as fast as possible. However, just because you shoot a guy in the foot doesn't mean the body's gonna collapse behind it. He may just move behind cover and try to deal with his wound in another manner. But if you do tag him and he's on the ground, great. If you don't, you need to reconsider your options, and remember, there's advantages to being on the ground and there's disadvantages. Ricochets is one, mobility is the other. So again, everything's a trade-off and something that you need to consider. If you do take him out and he's on the ground, I would highly recommend, if you're maneuvering and he's on his back kind of cockroaching, I'd rather maneuver to his head around that vehicle. That way, if he tried to still engage me, then he would have to be doing it over his head and upside down. Vice, he's in a supine position, which you've already seen. People can be very effective in a supine position. So that's generally what we're looking at. Reaction hand breaks the fall, okay? I like to always use support, and the reason being is, if you're around concrete, grass, or broken rock and debris, using support to me is an advantage because you're kind of lowering yourself to the ground. Could you come in and do a PLF, like a parachute land and fall, or something that's equivalent to you like sliding into home plate? You could, but the environments that I choose to do those in are gonna be the environments where usually I'm not just dropping straight down to the ground, trying to get the side of my leg, the upper portion of my thigh, my hip area, my arm, because what I find is a lot of guys take extra time to do that when they could have already been down on the ground. So if I'm considering doing an urban prone position, I want to collapse extremely quickly in order to do an engagement. The other thing is, guys that are really big boned, let's just say, sometimes they can't get flat prone. and they end up, in a sense, they're kind of just teetering on their belly, so to speak. So shooting on a side can be an advantage because bigger guys may not be able to shoot straight prone. Being on a side can give them an advantage. The other thing is, depending upon how much military equipment or kit you're wearing, you may not be able to get straight prone, but you can get over to an urban prone position. So there's a lot of different things that kind of go into the mix of this as far as getting up, getting down, positional stuff that you need to take into consideration of how do we get up from that position, how do we safely get down. You generally have breaking your fall, and then you have the parachute landing fall, but I recommend using support. In the end, it's your choice. You figure out what works best for you.